Be'ezat Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach. I'd like to welcome you to Ironside Lunch and Learn. Be'ezat Hashem, that the spiritual energy that's available in this week's Parashat, which is the energy of splitting of the sea and the getting out of Mitzrayim, that anybody who needs a Se'ata Dishmaya to get out of their personal Mitzrayim, which is the hardships, whether it's financial, health, whatever it is that every person needs in their personal life. And Be'ezat Hashem, that this also be to the merit for all those that need success in their zivugim. They say that it's hard for Hashem to make a zivug. It's harder for Hashem to make a zivug than it is to do kriyat yamsuf. So we say, how's that possible? How can anything be hard for Hashem? He says, imagine taking one drop of water and getting the exact same drop of water and putting it right back together. That's how difficult it is to put two people together in a zivug. So Be'ezat Hashem, since there's that spiritual energy of Yetziat Mitzrayim and Kriyat Yamsuf, that this lesson be to the Atzlacha of all Am Yisrael that need their zivug bimhera. This week's parasha is Parashat Beshalach. Something very interesting. We're right smack in the middle of the redemption. Moshe Rabbeinu is leading the entire nation of Israel out of Mitzrayim. And they're right in between a rock and a hard place. Paro's behind them. We got two different enemies on both sides, and the ocean in front. And it seems like they're in a bleak situation. And they get to Merit to see tremendous amount of miracles. Hashem splits the sea. They come out on the other side of it. And just when you think everything is perfect, start the complaining. Keep in mind, the Jews, slaves for over 210 years, just saw the 10 Makot, just saw Yetziat Mitzrayim. They just witnessed Kriyat Yamsuf. They went from rags to riches. They are right now filthy rich. They are all, they've all witnessed hundreds of miracles in a span of about a year or so. And just as they're crossing to the other side of the ocean, the parasha begins to detail three different complaints. One was at the time when they were in Mara, they complained about a lack of water. Then when they moved a little bit further into the desert, into Midbar Sin, they complained about the food, mainly meat. And towards the end of the parasha, in the Refidim, they complained again about water. Now, let's go to Perek Tetvav, Pasuk Hafdalet. It says over there, Vayilonu ha'am al Moshe le'emor ma nishteh. The nation became frustrated and asked Moshe, what are we going to drink? The following Pasuk, ויצעק אל אדוני ויורה אדוני עץ וישלח אל המים וימתקו המים שם שם לו חוק ומשפט ושם ניסהו. It says at that moment God showed Moshe a specific tree which he threw into the water, which sweetened up the water, and there he showed him laws and mishpatim v'sham nisahu, and there he tried the nation. Those two pesukim are very interesting. What's the big deal? You're in the middle of the desert. Is it not a reasonable thing to ask for water? I mean, thousands of people, millions of people, they're thirsty. It's not such a big deal. It's actually reasonable. It's not something that you should get upset about. So what's the problem over here? Why was this frowned upon? Why was this something that was considered a complaint? Keep in mind that this specific parasha has three complaints, two about water, one about food. Here's the first one. This one is about the bitter waters. So when it says in the end of the pasuk, V'sham nisahu, there he tried him, means that he wanted to see, what am I working with? What kind of a people are these Jews that just came out of Egypt and witnessed all the miracles, what's their true character? So the problem here is that they didn't ask politely. They didn't say, Moshe, can we have some water, please? The way we tell our children to ask politely. They complained, how come we don't have water? And it was so much better back in Egypt. You know, for those of you who have children, Be'ezat Hashem, you'll have children, you'll see that as soon as your child comes over to you and asks you for something, they always say, oh, I want this now, and give it to me now, and how come I don't get it? Right away, your gut reaction as a parent is to say it differently, say it politely, rephrase it, add the word please. Why? Because you're trying to train them how to act, talk, and behave properly. Is it? Similarly is what's happening over here in the Midbar. God is trying to figure out who He's dealing with. So the fact that they complained rather than asked was frowned upon. Secondly, He wanted to see if they would respect Moshe. Just like a kid, when he comes and asks, how much respect does he show his father and mother when he's asking? Does he push him around? Does he demand the food or the drink? Or does he say, Father, please, may I have a drink? Or, Ima, can I have something to eat? Or is it, give me something to eat. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. So Hashem wanted to test how they're going to treat the leader of the nation. Furthermore, there was a solution. The solution was that it was going to be through a tree. We're going to take a tree and throw it into the bitter waters, and it sweetened up the water and it calmed down the situation. So here we see that there's a commentary by Torat Menachem that says there's three approaches to what just happened over here. He says for bitter waters, how can you sweeten up bitter waters? There's three ways that you can do that. One, dilution. You could add more fresh water, and eventually all the bitterness will leave or will change. Second approach to sweetening up the water is transforming it. Add a very powerful agent, something that has a lot of flavor, put it into the water, and eventually it will transform it. The Zohar says that the actual tree that was put into the waters was the tree of life. The tree of life from Gan Eden took that tree and put it into the water, and it sweetened up. That's what the Zohar says. The third approach to sweetening up bitter waters is self-realization, which means make the bitter waters realize that being bitter is not good. And eventually the water will change itself into sweet waters. Interesting. Three different opinions that Torat Menachem brings. And furthermore, he wants to continue to say, this is three ways to approach the beating of Yetzer Hara, the defeating of Yetzer Hara in your daily life. One, you can dilute it. In other words, you can dilute the evil with good. If there's evil in the world, add goodness to it, and eventually it'll get diluted. That's one way to defeat the Yetzer Hara. Second way is to transform it. He says you reveal greater good, and it makes the evil fade away. In other words, if there's a X amount of evil, you multiply it by 10 of goodness, and eventually it makes it go away. The last one was the self-realization, which basically what you do is you're teaching evil, that being evil is bad. And by teaching evil, or teaching the evil doers, or people that are have evil ways about them, the goodness of life, the goodness of the world, eventually by teaching it, they realize on their own that they're on the wrong track and they switch. Very interesting how the Torat Menachem brought these three approaches of sweetening up the waters to how to defeat the Yetzer Hara on a daily basis. Now, right after the fight or the complaints of the bitter waters, We go to Perek Tedvav, Pasuk Chavvav. It says over there, Vayomer, Im shamoa tishma lekol Adonai Elohecha, vayashar be'enav ta'aseh, ve'ezanta lemitzvotav, ve'shamata kol chukav, kol ha'machala asher samti b'Mitzrayim lo asim alecha, ki ani Adonai rofecha. Hashem makes a proclamation. He says, if you will listen to me, if you will listen to my voice, to the voice of your God, and you do the right thing in His eyes, and you listen to the mitzvot, and you kept the mitzvot and the laws, all the sicknesses, all the diseases that I put in Mitzrayim, I will never put on top of you. I will not put upon you, because I am your God, I am your healer, I am your doctor. Over here, we have a guarantee. Hashem says, listen to me, do all the mitzvot, walk the right path, you're guaranteed good health. You will not need any doctors. God will be your doctor. I will be your doctor. Ani Hashem Rofecha. I am Hashem, your God, your healer. In other words, if anybody wants to have a long, healthy life, we just found out the cheat sheet to it. Hashem says, just listen to the words that I tell you, or the words of the Torah, and you will have health in your life. So, I wanted to see if that panned out, if this promise is true. And of course it's true, because our Torah is true. But I want to tell you a couple of stories from maybe just a few years ago that prove that this pasuk is true. There's a special floor in New York. I forgot the name of the hospital. It escapes me right now. The New York hospital. I forgot the name of the hospital. No, not Mount Sinai. It's by 70th Street. There's a special floor, and on that floor, they gave this special. I believe it's Chabad that's heading it. That they have a special room, and this room is paid for, donated, and it's basically a room filled with food, filled with kosher food. And the reason why it's filled with kosher food, because a lot of Jews end up in this particular hospital, and there's always that situation where do we get food? Sometimes they have to stay for Shabbat, sometimes they have to stay there for an extended period of time. So there are women, a Jewish woman that locally cook food, homemade, and they bring it over there. Every 2 days or 3 days they replenish the food, and there's always a stock over there. So like that, anyone who's Jewish that's coming through the hospital will have kosher food. One time, this doctor came into the room, and he started to have a conversation with someone that's there. And the lady there was a little bit depressed, because she was very worried about her husband, because the test results showed that he didn't have much time to live. And the same doctor that delivered the news happened to be Jewish, and his assistant was not Jewish. And they both came into this waiting room, this little kosher cafeteria, to console the lady, to let her know, because they just delivered the news, and they walked over to her. And then the assistant to the doctor tells her, I know we just gave you these test results, but you're Jewish. They don't apply to you. She says, what do you mean? He says, I've been here close to 3 years, and I'm pretty new over here. And I've seen many Jews that have come in with fatal results that they just have a few months to live, but they walk out of here just fine. And it was that Gentile that gave that Jew a chizuk about her own faith, about her own emunah. That even though the doctors say that he only has 6 months to live, he's not in the hands of the doctors, he's in the hands of God. I'd like to continue the story to something a little bit more detailed. A few years ago, when I was living in Brooklyn, there was a famous story traveling around of Rabbi Amnon Yitzchak, who came to Brooklyn, and he was in some auditorium, and he was taking questions from the crowd. And one time at this particular event, a father stood up. They gave him the microphone, and he was heartbroken, and he began to weep, and started to beg the rabbi for some sort of advice. He says, he has a son who has a tumor in his stomach the size of a basketball. He brought pictures with him. He showed it to the rabbi. The kid was about 5 or 6 years old. You could see that the kid is at the very last stages of this disease. And the father was very heartbroken, and he just wanted to say, what can he do as a father to help out his son? The rabbi gave him a spiritual prescription. He instructed him to start to study at night like he used to. And he instructed the entire kahal, which was maybe, I would say, anywhere between 500 people plus, to say, who's going to take upon himself to study for the health of this boy? And people started to raise their hands. They started to raise their hands. I'll study, and I'll study, and I'll learn, and I'll take this, and I'll take that. It took about 20 minutes out of the event to get all these people to commit to it. And that was it. It was back then, it was on VHS, it was on video. A few years later, I got to see Rav Amnon Yitzchak Shalita come back to Brooklyn, and the same gentleman stands up, that father. And he grabs the mic and he says, Rabbi, I have a miracle. I have a miracle to show you. And he said, okay, yes. Come up to the stage. And basically they showed the pictures of the boy when he was healthy, when he deteriorated. They showed the x-rays of the basketball-sized tumor in his stomach. They showed the event when the rabbi asked his father to pray, as well as the other people. And 3 weeks later, the kid walked out of the hospital. And a year later, when the rabbi was back, they brought that exact same kid up to the stage. The kid grabs the mic and says, I am a miracle. I'm not supposed to be here. Why? Because the Torah saved him. God saved him. Ani Hashem Rofecha. Us as Jews, you can get the most fatal diagnosis from a doctor. With the right spiritual prescription, it can get reversed. That's for health. Later on in this parasha, we see something else that's connected to wealth. The Jews begin to complain about the food. In Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuk Bet, again we find that same word, Vayilonu. Kol adat ben Yisrael al Moshe vel Aaron b'midbar. Now they're complaining to both Moshe and Aaron. Vayomru עליהם בני ישראל, מי ייתן מותנו ביד אדוני בארץ מצרים בשבתנו על סיר הבשר באוכלנו לחם לשובע, כי הוצאתנו אל המדבר הזה להמית את כל הקהל הזה ברעב. They wish they were back in Egypt. They're saying, we would give anything to go back to Egypt. When we would sit in front of that pot that was cooking meat and would eat our bread. By the way, that's all the Egyptians would let them do. They would only let them smell the pot that has meat in it. They never ate the meat. That's why he said lechem, and they ate bread. But they missed that. They missed even the odor of that cooking and the bread that they ate over there. And he says, aren't there enough graves in Egypt? You could have just left us over there. Why you bring us all the way to the desert to starve us and let us die here? So now they're complaining about the food. And Hashem brings the man. What is the man? It's the heavenly food. Food that comes from the heavens. Let's talk about the man for a second. It's called, another word for the man, before it was called man, It was called Ochel Abirim, the food of angels. Now, why would they call it angel food? Because angels don't eat. Angels don't defecate. Angels don't have digestive systems like human beings do. Why do they need to eat? So they let us know that the reason why it's called Ochel Abirim is because Shenivla Evarim. In Hebrew, there's a play on the word Abirim and Evarim. Abirim are giants or angels. Evarim are organs. The man, as soon as you eat it, it gets absorbed into the body. There's no waste. That's why it's called Ochel Abirim, because it gets absorbed to the Evarim, to the organs. The man could be any flavor that you desire. It can mimic any flavor in the world. If you're a young man, you'd want bread. If you were an older man, you'd want a tzapechit bedvash, in other words, something sweet. If you were a newborn, it would be kechalav mishadei imem. It would taste like the milk from a mother's breast. Cholim, if they're sick, solet me'orav midvash. It would be like a farina mixed with honey. And it was very interesting that it only stood around for about a few hours, and then later on it would turn in. It would worms would grow inside of it, and later on it would melt. And every day when it would melt, it would create like a stream of water. And all the goyim that lived around the desert would go and try to drink this water. To them it was bitter. However, they knew that this was the water that was produced from the melting man. So they would make their animals drink that water, and in turn the animals' meat became a lot tastier. And they were able to taste something heavenly in that food. Now, a couple of rules to the man. It would come down on a daily basis. It would melt in a matter of 4 hours. It was covered by dew from top to bottom. First would be a layer of dew, then the man would land on it, and then there'd be another layer of dew on top of it protecting it. There's no man on Shabbat. On Friday you're instructed to take a double portion so it lasts for Shabbat. And the miracle was that it did not spoil on Shabbat either, since it had that 4-hour expiration date on it on a daily basis. And some of this man was actually taken, stored in a jug or in a little jar, and is today sitting inside the ark. And inside the ark we have the Luchot HaBrit, the broken Luchot HaBrit, and there's also over there the jug that holds the man. If we go to Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuk Dalet, it says over there something very interesting. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Hineni mamtir lechem lechem min hashamayim, ויצא העם ולקטו דבר יום ביומו למען אנסנו, הילך בתורתי אם לא. Hashem talks to Moshe and says, I am going to send down food from the heavens, bread from the heavens, angel food. And the nation of Israel would go out and gather it on a daily basis. And I want to test if they are going to go in the ways of the Torah or not. In other words, God says in the last part of the Pasuk, Leman anasenu hayelech betorati imlo. For I'm going to test him, I'm going to try him to see if he's going to go in my Torah ways or not. We have here now another guarantee. God is going to try you on a regular basis. There's no perfect life. There's no perfect world. There's no everything is going to run smoothly. Every day is going to have a test. God is saying, Leman anesenu, I'm going to try him to see if he's going to go in the ways of the Torah or not. And what is this test? It's the test of emunah. God is saying, pick up as much man as you need for the day. Come back tomorrow, there'll be more. So in order to do that, you have to believe that. In other words, here's a human being passing by, he sees this man, he says, okay, I'm going to take enough just for lunch, and maybe a little bit for dinner. But there's 50 loaves of man around me. Maybe I need some for tomorrow. Maybe I need some for next month. Maybe I need some for next year. Maybe I should stock up. God is saying, no, take just what you need. Tomorrow, I'll give you again just what you need. And the next day, I'll give you again just what you need. So, it was a difficult test for some. Some people being in the desert, keep in mind, look around, it's all sand. No trees, no water. You can have fear on where your next meal is coming from. So you might feel obliged to take another loaf, just in case. God is saying, no, just in case. Just what you need, and trust I will give you more tomorrow. It was a test of emunah. Today we see that we know that there's a concept of parnasah ze mishamayim. Your parnasah, your livelihood, that comes from the heavens. God decides your livelihood. And you have to trust that Hashem is testing us. Like he said, Namana Nasenu. How are you living your daily life? Is it according to my Torah? That's the test. Are you doing business honestly? Are you keeping Torah, mitzvot, maasim tovim? Are you doing everything that you're supposed to? If you're doing it, and what's great about God is that He's judging you on a daily basis. That means you might have had a bad day today. Tomorrow, He'll judge you differently. Yom beyomo. He says, let me see if you're going to keep my Torah. If you're going to pass the test, what? Tomorrow, you get just what you need. And if you pass this day, tomorrow you'll get just what you need. And if you don't do it, there was an onish over there. We go further down in the parasha to Pasuk Tedvav. You see the Jewish people get introduced to the man. It's a new concept. Again, slaves saw miracles, complaining. Now they got food coming from the heavens. Put yourself in their shoes. So in this pasuk they say, "Vayir'u bnei Yisrael ve'omru ish el achiv, man hu, ki lo yadu mahu, vayom Moshe alehem, hu alechem asher natan Adonai lechem le'ochna." So the Jewish people see this bread, this man, and they turn to each other and they say the words. Pay attention to this words. Man hu. What is it? Ki lo yadu mahu, because they didn't know what it was. And Moshe lets them know that this is the bread that Hashem is giving you to eat. If you take the word manhu, the rabbis tell us that man, mem nun, is letting us say, ma nochal. What are we going to eat? And then there's a second opinion that says, manhu, if you take mem nun, he vav aleph, and you boggle the letters around, it spells out emunah. So what do we see here? That the whole test of the man in the desert is similar to the test that we have today in our lives. Today we don't get angel food, we don't get the man from the heavens, but Hashem sends down our parnasah. He sends down our livelihood. And some days you're rocking and rolling and you're making a tremendous amount of money. Some days are slow. Some weeks are slow. Some people have great years. Some people have some terrible years. It's highs and lows of business. But what does Hashem want us to know? He wants us to know the man. Where does it come from? Where does the parnasah come from? From the heavens. And what do you need to have? You have to have emunah. You have to have faith. The parnasah is from the shamayim. You could say, why isn't a person born with a budget? How come a person, when he's born, they give out his name, V'shmo beYisrael yikara, David ben Moshe. That's the name of the guy, and you have a $1.5 million budget for your life. Go. How come we don't have that number revealed to us? How come we don't have it at Rosh Hashanah? How come we don't understand, at this age, at this job, Hashem has some sort of formula, you have a $500,000 budget for this year. How come that's not revealed to us? That's because Hashem wants us to mimic the feeling of the man. Yom beyomo. Each day, reach out to Hashem. Hashem, I trust that you will give me everything that I need. I trust, I have emunah, that you have the best interest for me, and that I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I just have faith that you're taking care of me today. Like, for example, there are people that right now, things are okay. Things are okay. In other words, they have a job, they're paying their bills, everything more or less, the guy is surviving. However, there's something coming up in 6 months from now. The rent is going to double. He's going to lose his car. And the business is projected to make 50% less. What does he do between now and 6 months? It's a projection, right? Right now he has everything. But in 6 months it looks like it's going to be different. So what do you do? Do you complain? Do you worry? Or do you just do what you have to do for today and do your hishtadlut for tomorrow? Because what happens, a lot of people get caught up in what's going to happen in the future. So instead of saying, thank God I have what I need today. My fridge is full, my tank of gas is full, I have my health, I have my friends, I have my family, I have my business, today is good. What's going to happen in 6 months from now? Mentality of the man. Yom beyomo. When that time comes, Hashem will create a different miracle for me, or a different situation for me. I know that I'm doing due diligence. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do today, and I'm trying to protect tomorrow as well, being smart about it. But to completely worry about it for 6 months and complain about it, that is not emunah. The third complaint came up in Refidim. That's when the Jewish people got confronted by Amalek. Over there they fought with Moshe for the water again. What are we going to drink? And as soon as they complain about the water, the Pasuk says in Perek Yud Zayin, Pasuk Zayin, very, very interesting Pasukim. That's why I'm citing them, because each one is very telling of the feeling that's going on in the camp. Pasuk Zayin says, Vaikra Shem Hamakom Masau Meriva. They call the name of the place Masau Meriva. Al Riv Bnei Israel, on the fight that Bnei Israel had. Va'al Nasotam et Hashem, and for them trying to test Hashem. How did they test Hashem? Lemor. Hayesh Hashem bekribenu im ayin. They said, you know what? We're in the middle of the desert. God was with us in Egypt. God was with us in Yetziat Mitzrayim. God was with us with the man. Is He here now? Hayesh Hashem bekribenu im ayin. Is He living with us? Is He amongst us? If so, give us water right now. So you can see that they begin to complain again. Again, a loss of emunah. And the result of that, Amalek comes to fight Am Yisrael. They say, why did Amalek come to fight them in Refidim? Because the name of the place is called Refidim, because Rafu Yadam, their hands became lacking, weak, or they were slacking in their emunah. Kirafu Yadam Avodat Hashem. They started to slack in Avodat Hashem. Now, if you go just a few more Pesukim now to Yud Aleph and Yud Bet, what was the solution to it? What was the solution to war with Amalek? And you have to understand that on a deeper level, Amalek is Yetzer Hara, Amalek is the devil, Amalek is always the enemy. Amalek is just another terminology, just like Mitzrayim. We are always dealing with Amalek. As a matter of fact, there's a deeper drash about Amalek being part of our blood. There's a bigger drash of Amalek is the gematria of the word safek. Every time that you have doubt in your life, understand that the energy of Amalek is not taking over you. There's a whole concept of what Amalek is to the Jew. But as soon as we see that the Jews are facing Amalek for the first time, I mean, this is a brazen bunch. Think about it. They just heard about all. They have the nerve to go and fight the Jews. I mean, God just proved himself to the whole world. You're really going to go now and fight them? You have a lot of nerve. Rashi says over there, they cooled down the hot pool. There was a boiling pool of hot water. One person says, I know I'm going to die, but I'm going to jump in. Why? Because it'll be less hot. It'll be colder or cooler for the next guy that jumps in. So what happens? Amalek was the first one to jump in, and later on other nations jumped in. Why? Amalek cooled the hot waters. He broke the ice. Because we should be invincible. Who should touch the Am Yisrael, the chosen nation of God? They cooled the waters. So as soon as they got faced with this challenge of fighting Amalek, Perek Yud Zayin, Pasuk Yud Aleph Yud Bet, it says, V'aya kasher yari Moshe yado, ve'gavar Yisrael. When Moshe Rabbeinu began to pray for Am Yisrael, when he would raise his hands, they would win. V'chasher yanech yado ve'gavar Amalek. But when his hands were down, Amalek was winning. V'ideh Moshe kvedim. He says, and Moshe's hands started to become heavy. He couldn't hold them up. So they took a stone and they sat him on top of it. And Aaron and Hur were one by his side, and they would lift up his hands. He says, and each one would hold one arm, and his hands were emunah. What does that mean? And his hands were faith. There's that whole concept of emunah again. What is it? V'yadav emunah. He says Moshe prayed with a tremendous amount of emunah, and this faith is what won the war for the Jews. So you see, when it comes to health, what you saw in Yashem V'Ofecha, you see when it comes to wealth. When you talk about the man, the parnasah zimeshamayim, and you have to have manhu, and manhu you have to have emunah, that Hashem gives you exactly what you need on a daily basis. And when you fight your Amalek, when you're fighting a Yetzer Hara, and when you're fighting all these challenges that you deal with on a daily basis, there's one key to success. This parasha is a big lesson in emunah. You just have to have faith that Hashem is going to win it for you, that Hashem is going to provide for you, that Hashem is going to heal you. There's a super famous pasuk in this parasha, and with this I'll conclude. We have to go back to Yudalet. Adonai yilachem lachem v'atem tachrishun. Another guarantee. It says, Hashem is going to fight the wars for you, and you shall be silenced. In other words, when you have an emunah, when you believe that Hashem is your doctor, He's your boss, and He's the one that's giving you all your financial success, and when you know that He can fight for you the war with Yetzer Hara, what's left for you to do if you already have emunah? What's left for you to do? The pasuk says, Hashem yilachem lachem. All that's left for you is let Hashem fight for you, and you just sit back and be quiet. Huge lesson in emunah. Why? Because as soon as we lose our emunah, what happens? We begin to complain. And that's what happened here. The Jews, each time they lost their emunah, they began to complain. What do we learn for today? Anytime that you find yourself complaining, even, there's some people that are working very hard on themselves, and eventually sometimes they get caught on one particular topic that they become complainers about. There's some people that complain all day long. Some people that complain only at home. Some only complain only at work. Some people that complain only about one particular, like hot topic, little trigger, thing that triggers them, and they complain about it. But anytime you get to the point where you're complaining, understand you lost your emunah. You took God out of your life, and you're saying, I'm dealing with it, and I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to complain about it. I'm just going to voice out how this is bothering me and how I can't deal with it. However, if you have God in your life, you know He's your doctor, You know He's your boss. You know He's the one that's protecting you. And the only thing that's left for you to sit down, be quiet. He's fighting your wars for you. Anyone who has emunah has a tremendous power to be successful in life. And a little tip, should you not have emunah, stop yourself in one. As soon as you hear yourself complaining, stop yourself and say, do I really have no faith or trust in Hashem? And do I really think that what I'm thinking right now is better than what Hashem has figured out for me? Stop yourself, delete the ego, take your personal opinion out of it, and throw it to Hashem. Hashem, you are my doctor. Hashem, you are the one who's paying me. Hashem, you are the one who's protecting me. Here's the problem that I'm dealing with. Take care of it for me. And you sit back in silence and wait for things to pan out. That's the lesson of this week's parasha. Emunah on a large scale in all parts of your life. Health, wealth, and complaints. Shabbat shalom u'mevorach.